it was the unknown candy. It was like the tomb of the unknown diabetes. It was just a chunk of, you were like, oh, is this chocolate? Is it caramel? Is it apple? And you would just eat it. And by the time you even kind of maybe had an idea what it was gone and you had no idea what it was. And it was actually absolutely just nothing, just garbage straight up. Dude, remember how much fun you had? Remember how much fun you had? Halloween. What are you going to be? What are you going to be? For like a couple of weeks when you were in like elementary school, middle school, what are you going to be? What are you going to be? I'm going to be a princess. I'm going to be a coal miner. You know, I'm going to be a firefighter. That was always a big one. I'm going to be a firefighter. You know, and it was just like, and the costumes used to be way more normal. Way like, oh, Daniel is a bat. Oh, that's good job, Daniel. You know? Oh, Lawrence is, he's a coal miner in a wheelchair. Oh, good job, Lawrence. Selena is pregnant. Oh, that's interesting, but way to go, Selena. You know, you see that little girl, she come to the door, she does, that's her idea of creativity. She's 7 years old. She got a pillow in her, and lipstick on. You're like, okay, she's, maybe seeing a little too much at the house, But that was Halloween. Dude, and then I remember you would get the candy, and I always liked them Snickers, them baby Snickers. Out here in Los Angeles, they give all, the costumes are, out here, it's not even, it's like, Jackson is a hashtag. Lorenzo, well, he refuses to dress up this year because he believes that Halloween is, it's not fair to ghosts. Like actual ghosts aren't getting the credit they deserve. Yeah, well, fuck that, bruh. Halloween is a great opportunity to get an empty bag or anything empty. Dude, I remember one time running around our neighborhood with a plant pot because it just seemed like the biggest thing around. Fill it up. I didn't care what you put in it. Dude, I remember one guy just poured half of a beer out into mine. I'm like, yeah. Dude, I loved getting them little Snickers. And I love putting on my costume. Dude, look, I found these sounds. Remember, listen to these Halloween mask sounds, okay? These were sounds that your mask made maybe when you put the mask on. All right, here we go. Remember that? Okay, now what about this one? Listen to this one. Ooh. Oh, now if you had some money, that second one, you had a little bit of money because they had that hard, that plastic. You had to, it was like getting back into your mother's womb. Just once you go, whatever that, and that thing was always like a wolf or like a donkey head. Or it could be anything. It would be, but it was something like severe, like a big lizard head. If you got into that thing, you weren't. That was it for the night. I didn't like those things because I always felt trapped. I remember one time being in a costume and I couldn't get that thing off, man. And I could see out of the eyes and I could see the world like so clearly, but no one could hear me because the plastic was too thick. So I quit talking to people. And it was sweaty and it was scary because I couldn't, my peripheral vision was gone. So I couldn't see around me that good. And I could just see. And it was just like I was watching the world happen a little bit more. And I thought for a second, man, honestly, I was like, I wonder if this is what it feels like to have like autism or Down syndrome. Like you're in there and you can see, like it all seems really, really clear. But you're like sweating and you can't, and people can't hear you, or you can't like communicate as well because you got on these, you got so much, man. It was so much fun, dude. And I remember my mom had that station wagon, and the station wagon, dude, you could hide in the old school. Now they got these little Subaru Legacy. We had the station wagon. This thing was that World War II hitter. You know what I'm saying? If you got far enough into the back, you could hear soldiers fighting. That shit, that fifth row, they had the back seat, then they had this big extra long area. That was straight up Dunkirk back there. People were losing their lives back there. And my mom, they had the station wagon had it had a thing. It dropped down, because this is when I was probably, let me think, 5, okay, or 6, and they had that the station wagon had a back thing. It was like a tailgate. It was a tailgate, and it would just drop down. It was heavy, bro. If it came down, you didn't put it back up till maybe springtime or until a different time of year. That thing was heavy. And we would all get on there and we'd stand on there and be all dressed up in our costumes. Everybody would be keyed up. And just, somebody would just be like, I'm a bloody ghost. And they would just, have blood all over them and maybe have a bed sheet kind of tied around them. They actually just looked like a Greek person that had been, in a domestic dispute. You'd have some horrible fucking costumes. Now it's a little bit more like the parents dress the kids, I feel like. When I was young, dude, I remember you put a little bit of dirt on you. Like, I'm a piece of sod. You put a little bit of sod, maybe some grass in your hair. But it was fun, man. And we'd all get on the back of that. We'd get on the back of Mom's station wagon, and she'd let us stand on the tailgate. She let us stand on the tailgate because I lived in America in the 90s, and you could stand on the tailgate and you could hold on to the top of the station wagon, and Mom would drive around the rich people's neighborhood. And I'd be on the back of that, man, just waiting. And you'd see a house where it looked like they had somebody sitting out front, like a senior citizen or something, in a rocking chair, and they were all dressed up, and they had like maybe some decorations. You'd be like, oh, these motherfuckers got that Snicker. These the people that got the Snicker. Because when I was young, that's all you wanted, man. Some people during Halloween, they were giving out they used to have these candies. They were like, it was kind of like somebody had tried, they were orange and black. It was just wrapped up, and it was barely wrapped up. Some of the candy was kind of leaking out the back end, Some of the candy had a little bit of side boob, kind of, a little brown kind of side boob popping out of the wrapping. These little candies, they came in little wrappers, little blankets, little duffel bags for candies, wrappers. And they would give you these, and it was chewy, it was chunk. It was the unknown candy. It was like the tomb of the unknown diabetes. It was just a chunk of, you were like, oh, is this chocolate? Is it caramel? Is it apple? And you would just eat it. And by the time you even kind of maybe had an idea what it was gone, and you had no idea what it was. And it was actually absolutely just nothing, just garbage straight up. Just that. It could have been a polio vaccine. I have no clue what it was. It could have been, I just remember it got your sugar up and got you amped up to go another couple blocks. And I remember a couple of them, if you had 2 or 3 of the orange ones in a row, you couldn't turn your neck. Easy costumes. Somebody's a turtle, Little Ronald's a turtle, Little Thaniel, he's a goat. And he got real goat hair. His dad put real honey and goat hair on his back to make him look authentic. And he's a real little goat boy. And they put little fake horns on his head, And they squeezed him maybe into they might have squeezed him into a mask. I don't even know. They might have squeezed him in one of those tight hitters. Ooh. And little Thaniel's all keyed up. And maybe his daddy had a little bit extra time off of work in October, and he put real wood on the bottom of his shoes. And he nailed it into the bottom of his shoes, or super glued it onto the bottom and painted it black. So now little Thaniel got real hoofs. And maybe he's out there and you have on, children's underwears, or even sometimes in Halloween, you put on a baby diaper. You put a diaper on your body, in case you wanted to piss or something, because you wouldn't, we went hard at Halloween. There wasn't, and we were on enemy territory. We're out there trick-or-treating by the rich. Dude, you trick-or-treat in my neighborhood, dude, you get a rash for sure. Bed bugs, you get probably, they have a lot of registered sex offenders by us. So, none of these freelance boys, I'm talking people in the union, them real hitters. So you wouldn't really, a lot of people by us didn't even have calendars. You stop by dressed up, They might think you a real animal. If you come by, little Thaniel rolls up as a goat, bro, they might fucking grill that boy up. We having some rack of Thaniel back here next weekend. We having a barbecue. But yeah, man, we would go, and Thaniel he'd have maybe real goat hair on him. His dad would put honey on the back of his legs and honey on his back, and then they had real goats, so they'd get real hair off these goats. Because that's free. If you have goats, that hair is yours if they're cool with it. And you put it on, and then you're like, damn, that boy looks he's a real swaggy piece out here. And we'd all be on the back of and we'd have those diapers on because we weren't going back home. You know what I'm saying? If the diaper was because if you wanted to urinate or make duty, and you could do it right there and still trick or treat. Because this was our Vietnam, bro. October 31st. It was us against the world. It was us against these candy makers. There weren't as many, you didn't see as many porch lights on. You'd be like, all right, let's get back in the car. Let's get back on mom's tailgate. Go, mom. And mom's complaining, is everybody, who gives a go? Go. You're back there yelling, bro, half your candy. You don't even know. You getting your brother to look at something, stealing half of his shit. You got all the candy bags tied around your sister's neck. At this point, she's just a sugar mule. She's just muling sweets around. She's 2 years old, building up thighs. By the end of Halloween night, by November 1st, she got thighs look like a damn quarter horse. Look like a pony that was raised in quicksand and is still alive. She got them big, strong thighs. And she just got 9 bags of candy tied around her. And she just muling sugar. And you guys back on the tailgate again. You're going and you see another person's yard, and we'd run and we'd jump off. And I never forget what happened, man. Little Thaniel jumped off. And some people, every now and then, some real fuckaroo has to have a hydrant in the front of their yard. And you know what's great about them? They don't put lights around the hydrant. They don't put any. It's just a hydrant in the front of their yard. And this person had painted their hydrant brown so it would match their house. What a real Albert Fuckstein. So we all running off. We jump into the yard. 1, 2, 3, just parachuting off the back of mom's tailgate. And little Thaniel, that little goat boy, he's all shook up. He's hopped up. He's had maybe about fucking 65 rolls of Smarties and 15 of those, unidentifiable brown and black candies. He got so much. And those things, you couldn't even get them. It would just get stuck in your teeth. Remember that? Remember those? That's all they were. Those things, the orange and black ones, they just all it was something that kind of tasted like coffee and would get stuck in your teeth. Come on. But little Thaniel, bro, he'd run and jumped off. And in the dark, you thought it was yard because we'd all hit yard. And Thaniel fucking just landed right into that, the fire hydrant. Just imagine flying through the air. Halloween on your brain. 65 rolls of Smarties in your system hopped up. Won't be able to close your eyes for a month. You got so much glucose rolling through you. You got real honey-hooked goat hair on your back. Your daddy made you fucking wooden hooves. You got pine hooves nailed into the bottom of your Reeboks. And you got on a diaper full of urine and possibly number 2. Depends on how fired up you were. And you got a fucking damn goat mask on your face. And out of nowhere, just bam! Out of the pitch black, a fire hydrant. You jump off of a tailgate into pure darkness and you hit a fire hydrant. And that boy was never the same. Never the same. So, but that's Halloween, man.